We are educated and taught to believe that we live in a physical, material universe, and also taught that we are biochemical, physical beings. The fact of the matter is, we do not live in a physical, material universe, but we're not told that, and we're not taught that, because in our school systems and in our media, we are still predominantly taught 16th to 17th century science. This outdated Newtonian worldview still persists stubbornly in medicine, biology, chemistry, geology, and many other areas of science. It's time for a massive upgrade. We have not been informed of the modern discoveries of science. Quantum physics has revealed what certain previous civilizations already knew long ago, that matter does not exist. Science has discovered that when you tear matter apart, you get molecules, and you tear molecules apart, you get the atoms. When you tear atoms apart, you get electrons, protons, and neutrons, and when you continue to tear, you get phonon and photon, the electromagnetic waves of sound and light. The concept of matter arose from the philosophy of the Greek philosopher Aristotle. From this concept arose science's conception of matter. The term matter is used in reference to a substance, often a particle, which has rest mass. Matter is used loosely as a general term for the substance that makes up all observable physical objects. Matter is a word that has been concocted by science to describe a phenomenon that is not truly understood. Mainstream science will tell you that everything you touch or perceive are all composed of atoms. Ernest Rutherford was a New Zealand-born physicist and chemist who became known as the father of nuclear physics. Rutherford performed an experiment in Manchester, England, that revealed to him the shape of the interior of an atom. Scientists were shocked to discover that the atom is almost entirely empty space. Atoms are not solid particles. Atoms are actually 99.99% empty space, meaning we are only about 1/billionth physical. The nucleus of atoms is 98% non-matter, and the nucleus of an atom is made of protons and neutrons, which themselves are made of quarks, and the mass of quarks is only 2% the mass of a proton or neutron. Therefore, if electrons, protons, and neutrons are not matter, but rather a form of gravitationally trapped light, that means matter does not exist. We have not been informed of the modern discoveries of science. The question then becomes, how could this empty atom possibly make a seemingly solid space around us? All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this minute solar system of the atom together. All physical matter, everything we have around us, is actually the result of frequency. Sound is one of the sole factors which holds existence together. Sound is the basis of form and shape. Everything in existence is the result of a frequency, and it is the field of cymatics that makes sound visible. Cymatics was a term coined by Hans Jenny, a physician and natural scientist, who coined the term cymatics to describe acoustic effects of sound wave phenomenon. Cymatic studies revealed that different frequencies produce different patterning effects. The nature of these patterns at least partially depends on spin, the rotation around a central axis that determines the resulting movement. Jenny is acknowledged as originating the field of cymatics that allowed people to observe the physical results of voice, tones, and music. Jenny applied the name cymatics to this area of research from the Greek term chyma, meaning wave. Thus, cymatics could be defined as the study of how vibrations generate and influence physical patterns, shapes, and material moving processes, including those ongoing in your cells and tissues. Jenny was born in Basel, Switzerland. After completing a doctorate, he taught science at the Rudolf Steiner School in Zurich for 4 years before beginning medical practice. In 1967, Jenny published the first volume of Cymatics, the study of wave phenomenon. This book was a written and photographic documentation of the effects of sound vibration on fluids, powders, and liquid paste. He concluded, "This is not an unregulated chaos, it is a dynamic but ordered pattern." Jenny created the majority of his images using tone generators and crystal oscillators connected to metal plates, enabling him to precisely control the frequency and amplitude of the signal. Jenny made use of crystal oscillators and an invention of his own by the name of the tonoscope to set these plates and membranes vibrating. The advantage with crystal oscillators is that one can determine exactly which frequency and amplitude volume one wants. Jenny put sand, dust, and fluids on a metal plate connected to an oscillator, which could produce a broad spectrum of frequencies. The sand or other substances were organized into different structures characterized by geometric shapes typical of the frequency of the vibration emitted by the oscillator. In his research with the tonoscope, Yenny noticed that when the vowels of the ancient languages of Hebrew and Sanskrit were pronounced, the sand took the shape of the written symbol for these vowels, while our modern languages, on the other hand, did not generate the same result. There is a history of sacred languages which has not been taught to people, the qualities that these sacred languages among Hebrew and Sanskrit, which both have a corresponding numerological correspondence. They both have been recorded as having the power to influence and transform physical reality, such as levitation, and most importantly, to produce a cellular healing through the recitation or singing of sacred texts to heal a person who has gone out of tune. Sound has been considered so primordial that one of its scales, called the solfeggio, was kept secret for hundreds of years. The solfeggio is a 6-note scale and is also nicknamed the creation scale. Traditional Indian music calls this scale the saptak, or 7 steps, and relates each note to a chakra. These 6 frequencies are as follows: Do at 396 Hz, Re at 417 Hz, Mi at 528 Hz, Fa at 639 Hz, Sol at 741 Hz, and La at 852 Hz. According to Yenny, these structures, reminiscent of the mandala and other forms recurring in nature, would be a manifestation of an invisible force field of the vibrational energy that generated it. Yenny concluded in his book by proposing that the generative power of reality is made up of 3 fields: vibration, which sustains physicality with 2 poles, form or patterns, and motion. Together, these 3 fields create the entirety of the physical world. What seems solid is really a wave, and this wave is composed of quantum particles that are constantly moving. Even a still form is created by vibrations, moving patterns, or sound in visible form. Yenny stated, the more one studies these things, the more one realizes that sound is the creative principle. It must be regarded as primordial. No single phenomenal category can be claimed as the aboriginal principle. You cannot say, in the beginning was numbers, or in the beginning was symmetry. They are not themselves the creative power. This power is inherent in tone and sound. Ancient civilizations knew this. The knowledge that sound is the origin of our physical reality is evidenced in the Textus Receptus and the Kabbalion. Yenny concluded that everything, including biological information, can be observed to incorporate cymatic elements found throughout nature: vibrations, oscillations, pulses, wave motions, pendulum motions, rhythmic courses of events, serial sequences, and their effects and actions. He convincingly demonstrated that all natural phenomena were ultimately dependent on, if not entirely determined by, the frequencies of reactive vibration. Yenny was convinced that biological evolution was a result of vibrations, and that their nature determined the ultimate outcome. He speculated that every cell had its own frequency, and that a number of cells with the same frequency created a new frequency which was in harmony with the original, which in its turn possibly formed an organ that also created a new frequency in harmony with the 2 preceding ones. And modern science has proven Hans Yenny correct. Research further proves that our cellular DNA uses sound frequencies first before emitting and receiving biophotons to regulate cellular function. In the academic paper entitled A Holographic Concept of Reality by physicist as well as biophysicist Richard Alan Miller, Miller led a team of researchers that showed superposed coherent waves in cells interact and form patterns first through sound and secondly light. The academic paper entitled The Infrared Frequencies of DNA Bases as Science and Art by Susan Alexander and Dr. David Beamer, professor of chemistry and biochemistry at the University of California, Santa Cruz, actually recorded the music of DNA. In 1988, the author and biologist Dr. David Beamer collaborated on a science art project which consisted of measuring the vibrational frequencies of the 4 DNA-based molecules, translating them into sound, programming them into a Yamaha synthesizer, and using this tuning system as the basis for original compositions entitled Sequentia. Susan Alexander and Dr. Beamer found that there were 4 fundamental frequencies that appear in DNA: F sharp, C sharp, A, and D sharp. Susan Alexander goes on to state that the frequencies in DNA bases are harmonically ordered. The 4 fundamental frequencies that appear in DNA obviously correspond to the 4 amino acids that make up our DNA, thus giving us not only their musical note but as well as their resonant frequency. The proof of these discoveries are paradigm changing. This knowledge can lead to an entirely new and sophisticated and harmonious use of knowledge for beneficial technologies. Most importantly, this knowledge can be used for the healing and restoration of the human organism without the use of petrochemicals as well as unnecessary surgeries. Hans Jenny suggested that the key to understanding how we can heal the body with the help of tones lies in our understanding of how different frequencies influence genes, cells, and various structures in the body. Continuing the work of Jenny, author John Evans in his book Mind, Body, and Electromagnetism shows that there are various patterns produced by frequency and spin in the human body. The pattern of a liver is different from that of a vertebrate. He suggests that the cellular material of the body is patterned by electromagnetic waveforms with an ordering of frequency along the central axis. Cymatics proves that vibrational forces are the primary causal powers which create matter and its structures. Vibrational forces are the source of physical structures. In other words, physical structures are the crystallization of these vibrations into matter. Vibratory oscillations are the primary causal source which create the physical structure in the first place. In the Gospel of John, in the Textus Receptus, it is written, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God." And in Sanskrit, written in Nanda Brahma, it states, "The world is sound." These revelations lay the foundation for understanding creationism and yourself as a child of God, created by the Creator's spoken word as detailed in the book of Genesis. The implications to civilization are revolutionary and evolutionary, and most importantly, they usher in and verify the new modern discoveries of sound healing. The science of cymatics asserts the mechanism by which spirit or energy vibrates and resonates your water-filled physical body back into balance and health. Hans Jenny theorized that each cell has a unique frequency or energy signature, and that a number of cells with similar frequencies created tissues vibrating another frequency in harmony with the original cell. Adding tissues to form organs creates more frequencies in harmony. Ultimately, harmony, health, and homeostatic balance is administered vibrationally. Hans Jenny argued that recovery from disease states could be aided or hindered by pure tones. Mounting science supports Jenny's proposal that frequencies, above all else, influence genes and cells and various structures in the body. And this has been proven by Russian scientists Peter Gardiev and Vladimir Paponin, whom demonstrated that chromosomes work like holographic biocomputers, using the DNA's own electromagnetic radiation to generate and interpret spiraling waves of sound and light that run up and down the DNA ladder. Gardiev and his group used language frequencies such as words, which are sounds, to repair chromosomes damaged by X-rays. Gardiev thus concluded that life is electromagnetic rather than chemical, and that DNA can be activated with linguistic expressions or sounds like an antenna. In turn, this activation modifies the human bioenergy fields, which transmit radio and light waves to bodily structures. Eons ago, in molding our universe, the words or sounds generating the frequencies or keys of creation were sung. This voice gave rise to the cosmos. This same celestial orchestra is currently playing as loudly as ever. Although you cannot hear it without special equipment, it inspires and sustains you. You are learning that everything is crystallized within water from sound via math, the perfect language of God. Creation is a function of language, and life is based on the sacred geometry of mathematics, all encoded with numbers, electromagnetic frequencies of sound, that, as Jenny concluded, relayed spiritual messages between people and God as well. Frequencies evidence creative technology at work. The master conductor, master composer of the universal orchestra is singing you into existence right now. God is constantly broadcasting hydrosonically in the spirit of holiness, harmony, and order.